2020. The world is going to end. Could this be World War III? COVID? Quarantine? These are keywords from a story we've all grown tired of hearing at the beginning of every advertisement and in the plot of almost every video game. But probably for many of us, it's a story that brings back sleepless nights and countless life crises. Definitely a story we'll all grow up to tell our grandkids as an alternative to the one we've been hearing. Walking 5 miles barefoot to and from school in 3 feet of snow, uphill both ways. Didn't I mention rowing the boat upstream through the river just to get to the bus stop? However, unlike probably every other talk you've heard in the last 2 years, I'm not going to be focusing on the pandemic and how it impacted the economy, the democracy, or sanitizer sales, but on how it impacted me, prompting me to self reflect and try bringing about a change in the way I think. It all started with a game of football. For the first time in nearly a year, I actually went outside to hang out with my friends, just relax in general. You know, the usual banter, the entire squad having fun, and this guy called Anish just randomly showing up to play. Nothing had changed. It was just like old times. Except, I did not return home in the same condition I left with. My anterior cruciate ligament, the ACL, had ruptured and was completely torn. I actually thought it was just a sprain until my knee almost popped out that evening. We rushed to the doctor who hinted at the possibility of an ACL tear, but just a possibility. So I, of course, chose to believe nothing was wrong and proceeded to fly out to the Maldives the very next week. When we returned, I had an MRI, of course, but the doctor told me that I will need major surgery. We went to another one to get a second opinion, but the answer remained the same. Surgery was the only viable solution to an injured ACL because apparently it just cannot heal on its own. Needless to say, for a young and energetic adolescent such as myself, who had been in isolation for a year, the prospect of being cooped up in the house for another 4 or 5 months minimum did not sound very appealing. But I had surgery. I was told that the inside of my knee looked like pillow fluff, and honestly, that's the only thing that comes to mind whenever I look at my knee now. But yeah, that happened, and I was confined to bed. As time passed, something started to feel amiss. I lost my appetite. I had no motivation to study. I was in general being a not nice person. Was it depression? I am not sure even today. But that is not the important part. The important part is that I did not mention this to anybody. I did not talk to anyone. And now I realize that if I had access to somebody who would talk me through it, I would have been able to deal with it in a better way, even possibly end it sooner. Did you know that 1 in 7 children globally suffer from mental health conditions? So let's talk about the children for a bit. Last summer, while the pandemic was still at its peak, I volunteered to provide emotional support to middle school children and their families by calling them for 15-30 minutes a day. Having worked with the children in the past, I was a familiar voice to them, and they were more than comfortable with me. But understanding their plight became increasingly difficult as I talked to them and listened to their stories. They were suffering from a lack of human contact. The only way to contact their friends was over the phone. And even though they would be able to use the phone sparingly, they did not even have each other's phone numbers. Owing to their financial conditions, they did not have the devices or gadgets with which we connect to the real world. And honestly, take it for granted most of the time. It was difficult to find something to interest themselves with. One child missed studying and school so much that he began using the walls of his house as chalkboard. I found it difficult to understand how to react to this, how to help them. I found myself wondering whether a person with the right skill set would get them back on the right track. how would the children be aware? And even if they were, would they make use of this access? "56 million Indians suffer from depression, and only 0.7 psychologists per million people are available to help them with it." So let's talk about our society for a minute. As I went through these experiences, I started to notice similar symptoms around me. My friends, my family, even my immediate family. I would see that not everyone could deal with the situation they were in. Were they honest about the situation? Were they aware of how the situation impacted them? Were they reacting in a way that is healthy? The answer was not always a yes. So how do people try and deal with it in today's world? The other day, I was casually surfing the internet when I came across this site. It was a site which lets you talk to complete strangers online and anonymously. I searched up a couple of videos on it and decided to try it. Yeah, I know we should not try things like this on the internet at the drop of a hat, but hear me out for a second. I went to the site and hit the text button. And after a few tries, I wound up talking to this dude. Soon, I realized all he wanted from me was a conversation. The kind of conversation one would have with a friend or a family member. The kind that we desire as human beings. I was not sure that the internet was the right place for this. And while I do like to think I helped him out that day, I wish he was able to do this in the real world soon. We need better ways to deal with this. Right from early childhood years, we've been taught to look after ourselves because no one else will. It has become deeply ingrained into our habits. That is why we find it so difficult to ask for help most of the time. This is especially true about our feelings. While we may ask someone to help us lift a heavy load, we will not ask someone for help when we are feeling sad or going through it. But why am I telling you this? If the pandemic has taught us anything, it's the fact that we need to rethink certain aspects of our lives. We need to stop believing in the adage, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words don't hurt me." We need to start believing the power of words. To hurt, but even more importantly, to heal. We need to start by raising awareness. We need to understand that modern day mediums to get professional help exist. We need to understand that these mediums work. Certainly better than any anonymous site you'll ever find on the internet. We need to understand that we can need and ask for help. But most importantly, we need to help others understand this too. Next, we need to raise acceptance. We are the ones who have stigmatized therapy, so this is just me asking us to stop. People who go to therapy experience the two extreme ends of the scale of attention. Extremely negative, extremely positive. Both of which produce the same exact reaction: embarrassment. And when this happens, they start dreading it. We need to normalize the concept. These revelations shouldn't take any CL10. These revelations should not take any CL10. At the beginning of this talk, I told you that I wanted to change the way I think. Was I able to? Well, ever since I remember, I have been fascinated by space and astronomy. I was well on my way to a career in physics. I almost signed up to the one-way trip to Mars. But the experiences that I have opened up to you about today have changed all of that. I want to be part of this movement. A movement that I really hope gathers steam. I have thus decided to change my career path to psychology. I want to be part of the solution. I want to help a teenager lying alone in bed with an ACL tear. I want to help the kid who misses school so much that he begins writing on walls. I want to help the dude whose only option to have a conversation is the anonymous internet. Therapy carries so much potential. Words can have a huge impact on a person. Those words, when systematically combined in a streamlined manner, carefully tailored to the person's needs, form a mature conversation. All it takes to unlock the untapped potential of our minds is this conversation. An open conversation. One that ensures a safe space. Think about it. Isn't the purpose of development a better life for our species? Are we failing this description? Because from what I see, as we go forward in time, quality of life goes backwards. Thank you.